So 3 shifts from poor to peak performance. And for those who know me, I always love to talk about anything that has to do with leadership. And there's really many sides to leadership, and there's so much written about it and so many books about it. Um, it's what I call the actual leadership mechanics, the knowledge, the skills, the talents, and the resources. And that's certainly important. However, the larger factors that determine performance are to do with how people really make choices and their mindset and their attitude and their perception of the world. And that's what I'd like to focus on today. How can we train that particular part of leadership? So when we ask leaders and managers about the type of issues and challenges that they're faced with at this point in time, particularly, they talk about reduced turnover, communication issues, lack of motivation in their teams, uncertainty about the future. They talk about doubts whether they have the right people in the team to do the job. And certainly when things are changing, goals may be changing, business models will have to be changed. But some are really honest and they ask themselves if they really have what it takes to do the job. So when I'm training or coaching, I see the same issues come up regardless of the type of company, regardless of the type of industry or economic situation. And it really comes down to 3 real challenges. It's top 3 questions that leaders struggle with. How do I improve my performance? How do I improve engagement in our team? And how do we go from where we are now to really where we want to be? Those are the top 3 challenges that I can see come up time and time again. And a logical place to start addressing these questions is assessing yourself and assessing where you are here and now and having a look at your vision. It's asking the question, who am I and who do I want to develop into? So how can I use my influence as a leader to drive things forward, not only for myself, but for the greater good? And that's real and authentic leadership. That's about how can I use my influence for a cause that's actually larger than my own concerns. So how do I want to be, and what is it that I'm committed to that is larger than myself? And if your vision is big enough and you have enough passion for that vision, that's when you have enough drive to influence your team and to start executing. So the concept that I've been using in my coaching and in my teaching is a foundation for successful leadership, and it's called the performance equation. And it looks like this: performance equals potential minus interferences. So the performance equations also often applied in sports. And let's talk about sports for a moment, because there's so many nice analogies to make between leadership and sports. Because when do athletes perform at their best? When are they completely what's called in the zone? It's when they're 100% energetic, it's when they're 100% engaged, and they're 100% focused on the performance which is ahead of them. Any distraction will affect the outcome of their performance. So imagine a soccer player taking a penalty. And we've got Cristiano Ronaldo here. And we know that his body is trained to take penalties. He's done this thousands of times during practice. So he knows he can do it. He has the potential, the talent, the skills, the experience, no question about it. But what can hold him back is often what goes through his mind. And that really determines whether he kicks the ball into the net or not. So imagine the stadium with the shouting fans, with the goalkeeper that's trying to distract him, with the people in his team, his teammates that are trying to line up and giving indications to him of what he should do. So how can he, despite the distractions, stay focused on the image that he kicks the ball with the right angle into the goal? What is he thinking? What's the self-talk that's going through his mind? Performance is potential minus interferences. Training the body is very straightforward, but training the mind is often much more difficult. So let's translate this into the business world and think about the moments that we have to make a particular performance, or have to do a performance, like taking a decision or presenting an idea having to call an angry client or brief our team about something which is important, like a new project. How much focus and clarity do you have while doing that? And if you're not 100% focused, what gets in the way? What distracts you from being the best version of yourself, really tapping into your potential, your creativity, your intuition, your inventiveness, and all these great things that successful leaders have access to? So it's not much different for our teams. Sure, they need to have a good set of skills and knowledge and experience to do their jobs, but those are the preconditions under which you hired them. You know that they can do this, but those are the mechanics to do a good job. And that really counts for about 20% of the performance. 80% is based on psychology, on your mindset. So what often happens is we hire a new team member, 6 months in the job, she's lost her motivation, the energy is gone, and worse, she's also having a negative effect on the whole team. So it's not that people in the team don't have the right skill set. It's just that they don't have the right mindset at that point to go out there and be the best versions of themselves. Because performance equals potential minus interferences. Somewhere along the way, they got distracted. And now your team is not performing the way you'd envisioned. So when I coach, that's what I focus on with teams and their managers. What really gets them in the zone, or what's blocking them from getting there. So in whatever industry, in whatever role people are, whatever the performance is, it comes down to identifying 3 key elements: being, engaging, and doing. Now let's start with the first one, being. So it's being aware of how we show up. How do we manage our meetings? How do we communicate with our team? How do we make decisions? We all like to think that we are rational creatures, but we are actually not. We are emotional creatures because our nervous system is directly linked to our cognitive system. So it's the way we do things that is actually influenced by the state that we're in. So if we're in a tired state or in a stressed state, or we feel overwhelmed or angry, we act differently as our brains process things differently than when we feel passionate and determined and committed. So if we act differently, the outcome will be different. So if you change your mental and emotional state, you change your performance. So how our state influences the outcome, that was beautifully researched by Yale University with a group of teachers. So what they did was they first put the teachers in a very good mood. They had them make visualizations. They put them in a really good mood. And then they were given papers to grade. So after that, they put them in a bad mood. They make them remember one of the bad days in their lives, and they had them grade the exact same papers. The result was a 1 to 2 grades difference on average. So when asked if the teachers thought afterwards that their thoughts had affected their grading, 90% said no. But emotions clearly shift the way they viewed the same content, although we may not actually believe it. So becoming aware of your emotional state and being able to shift it to another level at any moment will improve your performance. And this is training. Train your brain to influence your mind, like really great athletes do as well. They train how to be in a powerful state so they can perform at their best. The second element is engaging. Now, when you know what you want to do, where you want to go, you have a clear vision, and you can influence yourself. You shift your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now the question is, how do we unite the team to go after that vision? It's wonderful if you have all the great ideas and the visions and the plans, but you really need others to bring them to life. And what's the biggest mistake many leaders make at this point? They see themselves as the leader and they see the team as the followers. So the best thing great leaders can actually do to improve engagement is to create leaders in their team. And everyone can be a leader in their own quality or talent. So find out what your people are passionate about, and train and develop that further to use it for the greater goal. A leader's leadership doesn't take away from someone else's leadership. And just because you're in charge doesn't mean that you can't have leaders in your team. They all are experts on something. So one thing that's essential in engagement is to deeply connect with our individual team members and find out what's important to them, what influences them. And if you know that, you can influence by that. So find out what their values and beliefs are, what stresses them out, what scares them, what interferes with their performance, what makes them happy, what makes them fulfilled. So you know what motivates them and what moves them. And they will also want to know how the work that they do on a daily basis is directly linked back to the greater vision and mission of the company. What is the importance of their role in the whole of the organization? How can they make a difference? Another point is building trust. And trust is such a big topic. I actually used to do 2-hour webinars only on the topic of building trust. So whether teams have a high or a low level of trust in their leader really depends on many different factors. And one of the key elements is your reliability. Say what you mean what you say, treating people fairly, being transparent, setting clear expectations, and being consistent. And also pay attention to the fact that a team is a social group, and there can be all kinds of distractions going on, and people will be afraid of being rejected. So when things are uncertain, it will slow people down. And where there's no trust, people will form silos that can really damage working relationships. But we also know that if people have a sense of autonomy and clarity, and when there's trust and fairness, it really strengthens cooperations in teams. And if we look at the third point, the third element, it's doing. So we know by now where we want to go, we can take control of our state and engage our team. Now, how do we execute our plans? When we get on our way towards our goals, the most important thing to remember is, in the end, achieving the goal isn't what's important. Because that's not really what will make you happy and fulfilled. Because what we do when we achieve what we set out to achieve, we just go out and quickly celebrate. And the next thing we do is we set ourselves a new goal. So it's not really what we'll get when we achieve the goal. It may be an award, it may be recognition, or maybe a bonus, or all the money in the world that is not going to make you happy. It's really the progress. The progress is what's going to drive you and that will make you happy. And what's more, if you focus, and I'll explain that later, if you focus only on the goal, only on the outcome, what happens in your mind when you don't achieve it? You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to think, there's no way I can do this. But the fact is, you have no control over the outcome. The only thing you have control over is the process. It's the small, impactful actions leading towards your goals. That's what you have control over. That's where the progress is. The outcome is simply a result, a measurement, a byproduct that's going to tell you if you've taken the right actions in your process, if you have made progress. So let's look at it again from sports. I mean, many athletes have an ultimate goal of maybe winning the golden medal in the Olympic Games. That's their goal. But there's a 4-year run-up to the Olympic Games. So what they do is they set themselves smaller goals. And if the athlete is, for example, a swimmer, he wants to work on getting off the starting block quicker, or making his turn smoother, or getting tens of seconds of his lap time, making sure that he is on the right diet. That's process. And that's what he can control. It's the small steps that keep him motivated, that keep him going. He has no control whatsoever over the outcome during the games, because what will the conditions be in the water? He has no idea. How fit will his competition be? Anything can happen. These are all outside circumstances he cannot influence. And really the same goes for the people in your team. If they feel they're not progressing, if they don't get any training or opportunities for further development, they're not going to be happy. So let's look at our current reality, our world is really, really changing fast. It's estimated that artificial intelligence and technology may be taking over about 30 to 40% of our jobs. So we have to adapt, we have to change, we have to educate and develop ourselves in order to keep making progress. And this is also part of the mindset, thinking I'm continuously learning really to stay ahead. And that's what makes you fulfilled and happy. You're becoming that best version of yourself. And that just feels much better than having to do things and trying to keep up. So how do you progress? And just to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a goal. It's much more important to ask yourself, what are the positive actions that I can undertake in my work or in my life during the next 2 weeks, maybe the next 2 months, that will bring me closer to my goal? So we achieve progress by succeeding, of course, because we know we've done things right, but perhaps as much as by failing, as long as you consider failure to be a lesson. And if you're passionate about what you want to achieve, and really compare it then to learning to walk. If you as a parent, you look at your child and the child's learning to walk and it falls over and it crawls back up again, and it will try again, and will fall 100 of times. And it keeps getting up and it tries again. And you're not going to look at the child and go like, give it up. It's not working. You never be a walker. Because as long as you consider failure to be just lessons on your road to success, then failure is as important as success. Also make sure that you develop people and teams by training and coaching and mentoring, by exposing them in all levels of the organization, not just up the organization, also expose them to people down the organization, because there's learning really in connecting on all levels. And also bring new members into the team regularly, from outside, if that's possible, if headcount allows it, but also via job rotation. Keep people coming into your job, into your meetings, but also go yourself to other divisions, sit in on their meetings. It will instantly bring new ideas, and new blood just keeps teams fresh. It brings new innovations. And that's what progress looks like. That's what doing really looks like. So I've done a lot of the talking, and we're coming close to the end of this webinar, this quick learning refresher. And just as a summary, what we've been looking at, we said that at the beginning, oftentimes leaders come with a particular kind of questions that they all come down to 3 things: improving own performance, engaging their teams, and knowing how to make progress. So it all starts with a clear vision. Who am I now, and who do I want to be? And then if we know that, performance equals potential minus interferences. Becoming more aware of your distractions. What keeps you from being 100% focused? Is your emotions that influence your thoughts, and your thoughts guide your actions. So it's your actions that actually determine whether you're going to be successful or not. So we better know what's going on up here. So first thing is being, choosing how you want to show up, recognizing and understanding what's interfering with your ability to perform and being able to shift your state. And that is engaging. It's all about creating leaders in your team, building trust by connecting on a deeper level so you know what really drives the people in your team, and make sure that you're 100% reliable. And the last thing we discussed was doing, going from goal-oriented to process-oriented. Realize that all you can really control are the steps in the process, and that the outcome is only a measuring stick. So focus on progress, which is succeeding and failing, and making sure that your team feels there's progress in their team as well as individually. So before I'm getting to any questions that you may have, I'd just like to mention that to help leaders and teams get more in touch with their being and their engagement and how to execute their vision, GLTD has developed programs for both individuals and teams to get clarity on being, who are you and what do you want to develop into so that you can perform at your peak. Engaging, how to be masterful at leading, involving and influencing your team. And the doing, how to make progress. So my recommendation beyond hearing this webinar and the way you can actually be the leader that's fully in touch with being capable of engaging the team and can make it happen is I invite you to connect with me. This month and next month, I have a limited number of complimentary strategic planning sessions that you can book with me through this link here on the screen, or simply by sending me an email. And the email address is on the screen as well. And in these strategic planning sessions, we discuss your individual goals and which approach would benefit really you or your organization. And also we'll provide you with more insights into our specific program topics, such as goal setting, leadership, strengths and gaps, removing barriers to success, influencing, productivity, and there's a couple of more topics, but it all depends on your needs. But for now, let's see if there's any questions. Put them in a chat, or we're a small group, so if you want to come off mute, that's fine too. See if there's anything I can help you with. I see, Pankaj, you put a question in the chat. When I'm a new joiner at a company, how do I approach and build those social connections at the workplace and build trust virtually? Yeah, and I know where this question is coming from, because often really we see that some people are actually coming on board in an organization and not being physically there. And to be honest, it is not much different, Pankaj, than joining a company. They will have a program for you, presumably, that you are going to meet people. But I would definitely advise you, first of all, put your cameras on. Make sure that you can really make eye contact with people, talk to people, and have that personal connection. But also see what the questions I came back early on, like, what is the vision? What is your role in the organization? How does that link back to the larger vision of the company? But try to find out as much as possible, not just about the company and what it's trying to achieve and how you can be successful, but have really also deeper connections with the people that you talk to in the initial first weeks. What is making them happy in their work? What made them decide for the company? What are the challenges that they are faced with? How can you help them be successful in their job? So it's really connecting on a much more personal level than just seeing each other as colleagues. So building a team is really going beyond seeing people as employees, but really seeing people as people. And that goes for all levels. If you're part of the team, with your colleagues, with the people, other people in the organization, with your supervisor, with all the people that you're going to be connecting to. So I hope that's answers your question. Akriti is asking, if the company doesn't have a clear plan for career progression, how do we get those conversations going without stagnating or resorting to changing the organization? I would be surprised really if there's organizations out there without real career progression, without having plans for people how to develop. And really, I think, like we just said, I showed in the presentation as well, it's progression and coaching and mentoring. If those are not present, if those are not offered to you, I would ask, why is that? How do the people in the organization feel about progressing people? How do they build skills? What do they help to support talent in the organization? What do they have in place for that? And to be honest, if the answer is not satisfactory, you don't feel that you're going to be progressing, there's no path for you, you have to wonder for yourself, what is the step going to mean to you to join this company? Is it just to get the experience, be there for a particular time and then move on? That could be. It may be something else that you want to get out of making that step, joining that company. But if you're really looking for a long-term career, I would really advise to get very much clarity on what the progression planning is for people that newly join the company. Thank you very much for joining today. Thanks for your attention. It was an absolute pleasure to see you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us today. I want to wish you a beautiful rest of the week, and hope to see you again soon. Take care, everyone.